Hey, this is Ross Payton with Role Playing Public Radio. This is RPPR Game Designer Workshop, episode 32, the Red Markets second edition beta playtest. So that's what we're going to be talking about. I do want to talk a little bit about the game I'm working on, which is our last episode we did back in May. I have retitled my game, but again,
SEO.
yeah.
Keep it moving.
Well, what I realized for my game is that most RPGs have like a 2 to 3 word title, and Labyrinths of Lost Futures, that's just too many words. So I've condensed it down to Labyrinth Signal. And survival horror focused. I have some interesting mechanics for it based on my experiences playing D20. But that'll be a future episode. It'll be fun and neat, I hope. But I need to run some playtests of the actual scenario. I've done that for combat, but that's coming. That'll be in the future.
I feel doomed now, Ross. I'm over here cutting 300 pages off of a book, and you're like, 4 words in the title, too much. People can't handle it.
I mean, think it's 1 to 3 words if you think about it. Like Morkborg, Dungeons and Dragons, Vampire the Masquerade.
I don't think you're wrong. I'm just having a panic attack. So,
you're fine. Red Markets. It's 2 words. It's perfect. You gotta.
Words inside of it, though. That's the problem.
Well, So what are we talking about that? So, Red Markets, second edition. You've been doing just a tiny bit of work on it.
So I counted up all of the playtest notes I have, and between like sessions that took 2 sessions in our Sunrise campaign, which is 19 jobs long, and then just stuff I've done at Gen Con and like combat tests. I've playtested it like 32 times now. And over the course of years of rewriting it. So I think I'm ready to exercise this demon. So the plan is to get the beta out to everyone for free at the end of this January. So that's what I'm announcing, and I'm here to explain my reasoning behind it, flawed and singular as it may be, because it's not like there's anyone else at the company I can talk to. Just talking to myself at the water cooler that I rented to bring into my house, so I could say I had a water cooler. But
it's a good expense. Yeah.
Kind of thinking it out loud and explaining why I'm doing things the way I'm doing them over here.
Yeah. So we should probably. Do you want to talk about the stuff the first thing or the latest developments, for it, or where do you want to begin?
Well, I'll just talk about the brass tacks first. So I'm going to put it up for free on itch.io. The beta will be feature complete, so it will have every aspect of Red Markets from the first edition, minus the more extraneous sections like the MBA rules and things like that. But combat, how to deal with the blight and zombies, all of the gear, how to do retirement, how to do a campaign, how to do enclave creation. Everything you ever did in Red Markets version 1 has been redone and rewritten. And this is going to be a test of the feature complete taker handbook, which is the new idea I have for the separation of the player and market sections. It will have the complete player section in the taker handbook. And it will have an excerpt, the minimum viable systems basically you need from the market book in order to run a playtest. No lore, no art, definitely no professional editing or layout or writing. But definitely it is still a beta and is still something that is going to be comments and fixes. But feature complete game, and I know you can run it for a significant number of sessions because I've tried.
You succeeded. Sunrise is a great campaign.
Thank you. Yeah. I will also be posting that again on the Heaven on Games Open Design Patreon for people who would like to pay to listen to those early playtests. I will get back to editing those now that I have broken my roughly year-long battle with the combat system. I'm just going to put it out for free. I'm going to knock the core book down to $5. So if you want to still use the D100 table and other material from that, and you haven't gotten that yet, you can grab it free if you've never played Red Markets before. But otherwise, it will be everything you need. And the only price is the time investment to read it and sending me some feedback. And the goal is to see where we're at the end of the year in 2026. So, and then hopefully we can make it a real product and not just a PDF that I'm begging people to download. Yeah.
I do have to take exception to something you said, though. There was some professional editing. By definition, yes.
Maddie did a wonderful job. I suppose I'm technically a professional writer if I won't get paid for this one day. But do not expect to be like, I found a typo. This is the play testing this game needs. It is not. There are many typos. They shall remain for the time being. I just need to know about where it doesn't work. Yeah.
All right.
Some people confuse playtesting for pixel bitching on the margins of a free PDF, and that is not what we are looking for. Moment.
I still can't get over the fact that, for when I was doing Base Raiders, I sent out the PDF. Here's the PDF. Please tell me if you have any typos before I have copies printed to mail to people. And literally the week I was like, all right, I printed it. It's on. As soon as I get them, I'll start mailing them out. It's like, oh, here's 50 pages of corrections. And I was like, cool. Yep.
Yeah. That'll probably happen at some point, but I will be hiring even more people to help me edit it before then.
No, I think
it has to be a good game first.
I think it was literally when they got the printed copy, they went over and proofread it and sent me corrections,
sending you screenshots of your failure. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I was like, cool.
Pictures taken by hand. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. Well, I'll be sure to get to that at some point. So. So you mentioned that combat's the beast you had to slay for this, and it took over a year.
Just because there were so many iterations of how to do it, and I had a real tough time navigating expectations of the old system, and at the same time, going for the feel that I wanted in terms of speed and deadliness. So there were a lot of different tweaks, and normally when I do a Red Markets game, the first thing I designed in the first rule sets was the gear, and I work outwards from the material into the system. And I didn't do that in the second edition. And that's fine. I still think it's good and a much better game than first edition. But the problem with Red Markets is that the character sheet is such an interlocked economy. The bounty goes in, and then it flows out to every part of the character sheet, to gear, to humanity, to health, to skills, to potentials. And when you change one thing, and I was basically, because of the initiative system problems, not liking the things they came up with, combat came last. When you change one thing, well, that also changes how combat works with the casualties. That also changes how combat works in this situation. That changes how I need to express this on the character sheet. That changes. There's all these knockdown effects. So when I didn't know what I wanted and I had to try something, that meant altering the combat system, but that also meant altering everything subsequent that was attached to it so that it was cohesive. Then trying it, and then that wouldn't work, and then you'd try something. So it was it slowed down my process quite a bit. And
I could see that ripple effect really. Because it really is heavily interlinked to each other.
And that's why I'm probably with this beta, I'm getting it out, all of the feature complete handouts, the new brief system of sort of building a quick start into the book itself. And I'm doing all of that currently because I need a year just to soak up feedback and not be tinkering as the train is moving.
Right.
So sort of a dry dock for the game, so to speak. And I think it'd be cool if other people could play it while that's happening.
Yeah, because Red Markets is a campaign system. You can do it. I've done it many times for one shots in convention games, but it really is meant to be a campaign because of the focus on retiring, right? And you need to give people time to see if they can get to retirement, because that'll because I know in the first edition characters were fairly survivable a lot of times, except out of really bad rules or bad decisions.
I fixed that. Yeah.
You fixed that, yeah.
You can die way easier now.
Boy, can you. I know, like I posted the actual play of the combat one shot you did, which was other charges, right? Other charges as applied or something like that. Yeah. And it's really sneaky how it works. Yeah, other charges as applied, because I think this the most subtle thing you did, but yet the most powerful, maybe the most powerful change you made was changing the hitboxes. Because in first edition you had 20 hitboxes in the chest, and now in this current beta you have 10. So
yeah, and that was always a variant in the original book. You could cut down the number of hitboxes in the chest for the bust variant, but in this new one, yeah, that's the baseline. And the way everything works in the new system, there's 3 rules for every time there's a variant. There's the base rule, so you know what the baseline experience is, and then there is going to be boom and bust, and they're all expressed right next to each other. And I'm working on making a chart for it if you want to organize all that stuff. Yes,
yeah.
The base rule is now 10 hitboxes. If you want to be spongy again, you can just draw vertical lines through the boxes and go back to the 20 system for your boom rule. Yeah, and then bust makes it even harder to heal things. So, yeah. So yeah, a lot of the redesign is going to be rules based stuff, but like the core mechanic of like you need to be in the black, ties are not good enough, you need to profit from the roll to succeed, paying for your rolls and what's called toll to roll now.
I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah. All that stuff is pulled over from the first system, if like changed in name a little bit, just some nomenclature stuff like I did with the skills. But the main difference in the beta is information economy. There's no lore, there's no in-character voice in the current text. It is the rule next to a header that is not clever at all. It just says what the header does, hyperlinked to everywhere else that rule may occur or be brought up. And everything's about information economy. So every chapter starts with the brief, and that's how we ran the whole campaign, was those little folders of just like, hey, we're doing this system now. If you want to see it all on one page, pull that out, and there it is at one page. You don't have to look at the whole book. So I'm going to be doing in addition to all the character sheets and the crew sheet and stuff for like form fillable PDFs, I'm going to be making a single PDF of like, here's every system in the book. It's going to be like 20 to 30 pages when you include like the enclave template and the contract template and stuff like that. But otherwise, it's just like, how do zombies work? 1 page. How does combat work? 1 page. How does character generation work? 1 page. So you can, and the way Red Markets works, like it did in the first system, is like you have a lot of variation in how you express the different aspects of Red Market, but every Red Market's job is a formula. Like, you need to find a job, you need to make sure you get that job, you need to go to that job, and then you need to do it without dying. Like, they all hit those same like beats, gameplay, even though there's a lot of variation in like what can come up with the complications and stuff. So the goal is that, hey, you're really only doing 1 beat at a time. Like, you're not negotiating while you're fighting zombies on a shift while you're designing a score for the next session. So you can kind of just be like, here's my character sheet, here's my little helper sheet of whatever we're currently doing. And hopefully it helps people on board to the game a lot faster than the first edition did. Cool.
So, I mean, yeah, dropping the lore for the beta makes sense because, I mean, even if people don't want to pay the $5 for the the first edition, there's the quick start guide, and I think a lot of the people playing the beta are going to be veteran players anyway. So high technical difficulties.
I would love if, like, I mean, I want them to, obviously, but I would like new players, people who are put off by the initial Red Market's chunkiness. I would like to see if they can be brought on board for certain. Yeah. And I did add primers into the little, there's like a 1-page, what am I doing as you helped me proofread this. There's like, player. What's the setting so far? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's smart too, because there are a couple of differences between Red Market and other apocalyptic settings that kind of need to be mentioned. Like the internet's still working.
Yeah.
So, was there anything from now that Red Market's been a while, there have been many campaigns, not just on RPPR, but other podcasts and also just local gaming groups, home groups, telling you about their campaigns that really kind of helped inspire making these kind of changes. You mentioned character survivability and that kind of thing, but were there any other like reoccurring themes from first edition playing groups that you took into account?
Yeah, so there was I looked at it from the wrong perspective. Like I looked at it from which is understandable because it was a game about economic horror.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to be like nickel and dime, split up every fucking component of the game into like individual products for better sales. I sort of looked at it as like an anti-capitalist. Like, well, you want the game, here's everything in the game. It's one book. You'll never need another one. You can have them if you want them, but like it's everything you could possibly want. And I think I was right to do that from that logical perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a big trad-sized game, and I don't mean traditional and then like you're not supposed to role play, or you just do the numbers and they just mean number things. You don't talk about what it means to be 4 bounties short on food that month. And the game at every point is saying, no, you should really talk about that. Like that should be the main thing your characters are role playing about, is why one numby don't meet the numby you need, because that's how life works. But you're still tracking, stats on your character sheet. There's still, needs to interpret dice systems and some level of system mastery if you want to be like good at being a taker. And so as a result of that, I need to look at it more from the consumer perspective, and that's the difficulty of onboarding a new game in terms of time and reading. And I recognize a 200-page PDF is not exactly an easy investment of anything, but at the same time, it's going to be completely free and playable, even if I never manage to make a product out of it. So I'm hoping that's a good mea culpa on my part. But otherwise, I'm trying to express the rules as succinctly as possible, which isn't to say there aren't examples and explanations and graphics to show you how to do things on the character sheet. But, it's the heading, and then directly beneath the heading is the bolded, I need to know what this rule does, like board game rule section of it. And then anything else is an expansion upon that. So like, edge cases and, examples in play, that'll come later. It's not entirely excised and written like a board game manual.
Right.
I'm really trying to speed the onboarding of information in new players. Yeah.
Right. And a lot of those edge cases and other things are going to be based on feedback you get from the beta, right? Like,
yes,
there's going to be things you didn't expect people to trip up on, and that's going to be the stuff you need to explain further, and that sort of thing.
And with like 10 years of the Red Markets Discord, there's stuff that everybody trips up on, and I just cut it or made it something completely different.
Yeah, like negotiations changed a lot, and we've talked about this, I believe, before on the
podcast. That's what I did first in second edition, was to tackle the negotiation problem.
Yeah, and that's been pretty stable since you changed it. Really, was the last part of the puzzle was really combat, and that obviously took the longest.
I thought negotiations was going to be the worst thing to hack through, but that ended up being quite a bit easier. There's still some math problems that I am aware about. Before you go into the comments, everybody talks about the math problem. That it's harder to score a bunch of bounty when you have a small crew. Like if you're going in with 2 or 3 takers, it's tough to like make a ton of bounty. And I understand that. So I have added a sort of mitigation thing on their rule. I don't know if it's going to work, but people can try it.
What is it?
I'm going to make if you're beneath like 5 people, chips cost the number of players. So if there's 2 of you and you add chips, it's -2, not -5.
Okay, yeah.
So you can kind of vary that. But I don't know if it'll work. We'll have to test it out.
Yeah.
But in general, the feeling of negotiation is not only there, it goes way faster than fucking with the ladder and the old system that I had. It takes way less time, which I know because I'm a freak and stopwatched it a couple times while we played without telling you all. And then, then
I mean, it's all recorded too, so you could just timestamp look at the recording too.
Yeah, definitely. It's well, the thing I do is I go home and I write down whatever I fucked up or think needs to change before I forget it. When we play, which is why Maddie was pulling their hair out, like, you capitalized it here, but you didn't do it there, but it's bolded here. And I'm like, yeah, because it was written 2 years apart, most of the time at like 1 a.m. And I had been up all day and we just played a 4 to 5 hour game. Yeah,
exactly.
But yeah.
Cool. Did you include any like example jobs from Sunrise or any of the other playtest sessions you've done so far?
Yeah, I'm going to include an example score, which I know is kind of defeats the point to write out a score, but just explaining to people that like the premise, the problem is now how much can you grab and carry with you, not can you do it. And then I'm going to do an example contract, and then I also included Trout Fit for those that don't know what an Enclave write-up looks like. Yeah,
I think that's again examples to give people a template to work on, because everybody will have their own ideas on this stuff, but like they need to see
there's
the
10
structure.
Pre-generated characters. There's 2 jobs in the starter packet, and then a full Enclave already created. So you do not have to get your whole table on board. You just have to read it and be able to walk them through the system and the briefs, and that should be enough to get started. Yeah.
Cool. Are there any particular areas you're wanting playtesters to be aware of, or like these? Like we already mentioned combat, but yeah.
At this point, no. Like I want to hear any feedback they have, but I really want to hear about like systems as a whole, how it felt at the table with your group that wasn't me running it. If you would want to play it again, or if you are playing it again, and why. You can articulate as best you can that. But like, it's not that I don't think things still don't need work. They certainly do, but I'm far more concerned now with the cohesiveness than I was like, all right, this chapter, first edition still, because I haven't had time to do it. This chapter and this chapter, this new bullshit I just printed off at Kinko's, which is what we did for 2 years. I'm very much more concerned with all the new chapters are done. How do they work together at your table? What did you do? What did you choose to engage with? What did you choose not to engage with? That would be best for me. And also like parts where you just didn't understand the rule, because that is typo tech stuff that I do need to fix quick, fast, and hurry. Yeah.
Oh, sure. That's the heart of it. That proofreading, just seeing the same thing. It's terrible whenever you write something, right? Like you just mentally fix any typos before noticing, moving on. So, but the interesting thing I think about this new edition is you're also considering like changing how you're going to be publishing it, right? If it does go forward, right?
Yeah. So I guess we could get into the business side of GDW at this point, since I've done it before. But like another thing I need out of this beta is I'm calling it propaganda of the game. Not that there's anything about propaganda of the deed in the news lately, but propaganda of the game, because the entire like structure of promoting something like this and testing it and definitely publishing it has shifted radically since 2016. And I imagine that by 2026 it's going to be even more vastly different. So in addition to needing playtesting and feedback to be a good game, which is the primary reason to do the playtest, I'm also hoping it gets a little bit of promotion as a result of it, because first off, I need a year just to do market research on like print quotes and stuff, and find artists and things of that nature. How am I going to crowdfund it? On what platform am I going to crowdfund it now?
Yeah, there's options now.
Yeah, there's options now, and Kickstarter wasn't, trunkening union reps back when we were doing in 2016. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there. And then there's just like uncertain futures. Like I might get sick and have to focus more on freelancing. The community might not want it because it's not their style of things, or I can't get people to play it. And if I can't make the game good, I'm not going to republish it. So there's, feedback possibility. And then there's the fact that like a 35% tariff to China and Canada and Mexico is going to change my print options. A privatized U.S. Postal Service is going to eliminate media mail and changes everybody's shit. So there's also the fact that like I want to get this beta out because I worked really hard to make the game better, and I think it is better than First Ed. And while I'm going to try my damnness to make it a product, and I have like a plan of how to make that product new with publishing, I want people to play it, even if I can't manage to swing that in whatever's coming. Yeah, because I'm not Paizo or Wizards of the Coast over here.
Yeah. I mean, there's also the fact that you could also change the form factor of the book or of the game. Because like one thing that's come into vogue in the last couple of years are like box sets, but like of small form, like 6x9 kind of books. Like I'm thinking of like the Mothership box set and Mouse Rider, and also just like smaller physical books, or splitting it up into a set of smaller books, or not even necessarily zine size, but yeah.
Well, the plan would be to, if we do get a product that we can crowdfund, my goal would be minimum viable print quality would be 2 softcover color books, a taker handbook and a market analysis book. So you could do sort of the player book and the back end book with all of the lore and all those things. And then like a really cheap black and white 6x9 POD D200 of shifts, which is what we're calling what used to be legs, which are just the random travel encounters. And you just roll a D100 with your red and your black, and then you decide if you want to look at the black list or the red list, and you go to that page number and you're good to go. So that would be it for text. But there's a lot of ways to like mitigate that. So like if it doesn't make a full amount to get new art, we can reuse the 300 pieces of art we currently have for the current book with some new layout, and I still think it would be a fine product. If you can't make the print goal, I'm fine putting it out PDF wise, and that drastically reduces the amount of overhead it takes to get that out the door and into people's hands if it's a PDF only product. So there's ways to do it, and I'll have to look into those print wise. But yeah, it would probably be in current market $70K to put out 2 books of that size if we still did color. And that's what it made the first time around. And I've never had a Kickstarter that I've run do half that well since then. So
sure.
Big if.
Yeah. But I mean, of course we did, we'll be covering our, a lot more of Red Markets as your journey continues, and maybe even another campaign that I could run or something like that. As we get closer to it. Yeah. Maybe like after like a post revisions, final version of her, we'll have to see, but because I'm definitely because I had a lot of fun with Sunrise, which is the campaign we did over last year. And how many episodes have been posted to have it on?
I got till 5 until I just hit the brick wall of my rent being raised, and then Patreon shitting the bed, and then the combat not working. But I have them all, and I plan to keep editing until I think the last one we did was the death of Maddie's character, Ghost, ironically. Yeah. This is the last one posted. But
oh wow, so there's a lot of campaign left.
There's a lot left, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to get back to that on Heaven Games.
Yeah.
But that will be the paid content, and then if you want the beta, just go and download it. It's gonna be up for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that, and I think it because it was a, for our listeners, that was a complete campaign beginning to end. So I can't
Yeah.
wait for people to hear the entire story.
Yeah, but I want that paywall so the people like have to make a choice, and I can say the rules aren't like this anymore. Like, yeah, they're better now. Yeah.
Aw. Um, were there any like you talked about how the RPG scene has changed since 2016, and how you wanted to change second edition because of your own, like, what you wanted, your personal vision changed, or you wanted to get the game to be more true to your vision. Were there any other trends that kind of also influence your changes to beta from RPG design that you've seen? Like, were there any games that inspired some changes?
Uh, there were lots. I think you talk about like Mothership and all that Morkborg stuff. I think with the generators, I'm just going to not explain myself. It will be a term and a couple of evocative examples, and that will be it. It will be not a 2-page D10 list. It will be a quarter-page D10 list, and you need to extrapolate because I think there's a lot of. I love a randomizer, obviously. I mean, I made Phase Anatomy, but like.
Yeah, no
Yeah, I
kidding.
think I was putting in too much work for the randomizers, and that has been shortened up. I think speed and getting things to the table quickly is something that I've done quite a bit of work on, trying to enhance in the system. But at the same time, I'm also like trying to resist certain trends. Like I don't think it's ever going to be a zine game.
Okay.
I don't, and it's not like against zines. I just don't think
the idea is, I think the idea of Red Market, the concept of it, requires something more substantial than a zine size game, like because of the economics, in it. Like it's,
because like the way it works now, if you want a game of a certain length, you do Mr. Joel's. That's what you do. Like you do however many sessions you want to, and then you fucking go for it. And then whoever makes it out alive, you made it out alive. But you did your 10 sessions and you're out. But the way the system works now, if you're retiring, I don't know how many sessions that's going to take. Like it depends on how good you are. Like you're back in the economy, man. It's bootstraps. Like there's no real way to gauge it. You could fuck up and lose it all in a bad job. You could retire and have it all fail because you didn't overinvest enough. Like most people who do actually retire in real life without zombies. And that's like a bigger investment that requires, like, I think a more substantial system in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say you can't improv a game of Red Markets if somebody knows the rules. That's what the score system's for. But I wanted to be a bit more chunky than something that could be expressed in a little zine size thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because the theme is the grind, the struggle to survive, and you can't a one shot or a rules light thing based on vibes and improvising. It doesn't really get that across. Yeah.
And I think I've learned a lot of lessons in like 10 years of playtesting it for like soft rules. So like rules that aren't like interpret a dice thing this way, but like I guess you'd call it GM advice, being like, hey, don't just say how much bounty do they have in the bank. Ask where it's at. Like, hey, you live in a refugee camp. Where do you hide your scratch? I call it materialist role playing. Like, yeah, you can describe your gun really fetishistically if you really want to, and that's fine. But I'd much rather meet the guy who sells that near your house. You know what I mean? Or I'd like to know what your kid thinks about when you're having, minute arguments about sighting in front of them, and they're just want to like go on back home. Like, that I think there's a lot of things that you can do by the stuff and the backpack stuffing that's in a lot of, the games that Red Markets is a reaction against, the continuous 10 gold piece sword of D&D. I think if you make that, scarce and contingent and actually vital to doing your job, because if you go out there without the rubber stuff, you are going to die. It doesn't matter how good your skills are. I think that like creates a lot of story on the fly that people who are playing red markets, living in a late capitalist hellscape, have to take the tiniest step to role play like really effectively. And I say that multiple times in the book. Like, you can role play a red market's protagonist. Things are like they are now, but worse. And you've normalized that. You done that before? Or like last year or the year before that or the year before that or the year before that? Only this one's pretend and you get to go back. And that must be nice. Like, I'm really trying to argue like I know it's stuff and things, but it's so abstracted with the charge system that you're not going to be calculating weight in your backpack or encumbrance or any of that bullshit that slows things down. It's really just there to give you a little kind of gauge. You could call it a clock on a PPTA game. A little gauge of how nervous your character should be about this versus how nervous they should be about this versus how checked out they should be about this versus how excited they should be about that. It's all little fuel gauges for your character's soul and survival. And I think that I've learned a lot of tricks on how to do that, even in just running the Sunrise campaign. And so like, I really liked the camping mechanic. That wasn't really a mechanic. It was just like, hey, you did a shift, where do you bed down for the night? And that was like wonderful. Like, you guys always added something interesting. I could see the characters around the fire and like Maldives staring out the window to keep his watch. Like, it really built a scene just because you said, describe the place, describe that thing. What does it feel like? That really immerses people a lot more than I think the initial game gave the impression of, to like, because everyone like who poo-poos on the game without reading it will say like, well, I could never keep track of all that stuff in a character. And then someone who played is like, actually, it's all on the character sheet. It's real easy. It's just dots and addition. And then they're like, oh, no, that sounds way too much. And all the graphs. And it's like, well, there's not that. It's just on the character. Like, there's a Reddit thread where it's just like someone saying the same thing. It's actually pretty easy. Someone saying the same thing. It's actually pretty easy. And it just goes on for like 40 comments of like having an argument with someone who didn't crack the book. And I'm not trying to get all of those people, but I understand that the book's size and its theme can be give that impression. And in this one, when stripping it down to just the mechanics and just how to execute those mechanics, I'm really trying to emphasize it's just a way to prompt story ideas.
Yeah, don't feel bad or singled out about that, Caleb, about that Reddit thread, because that's literally every single other RPG than D&D, because there's just like, well, I don't know about the sanity mechanic. Sounds really complex. No, it's just this. I don't know about this. I think I should house rule something in D&D. I don't know about these hacking rules in Shadowrun. Maybe. Well, I mean, hacking rules in Shadowrun are kind of bullshit. Yeah, it's literally every RPG with anything moderately complex, people just get a knee-jerk reaction to, or at least some people do, obviously.
And that's why I'm trying to do one page for everything. If I can't fit every actual system that you need on 1 to 2 pages in like or a single physical sheet of paper, it doesn't go in the game.
I forgot that
if that's too much, that's fine.
I'm
okay losing you as a customer, but I want it for everything. Is actually you can learn it in 1 page, because that's true of every system in the book. So
and I really did like the camping mechanic you mentioned. I didn't realize, I guess I'd forgotten from First Ed that wasn't included in First Ed, or maybe that's just kind of a soft improv thing.
And that's the stuff I'm really going to do in market analysis, is add those sort of, and they're not really rules. They're just like, hey, here's a question you could ask that will make this more than bookkeeping. In the upkeep chapter, I call it embodied upkeep. Like, okay, here's this stage of upkeep. Here's some questions you could ask to not everybody at the table, but like anybody who's like investing in retirement. Well, what does that mean? Like, are you transferring it all into crypt? That has to be fucking scary. Like, who's your dealer? Like, who's your financial planner from your refugee homo sacer death camp that you're eking out a survival in? Who's going to be running your books? Or like those are all characters I want to meet. Those are all things I want to see and people we want to talk to. And you end up building out like a big a wild enclave that way, just with player feedback. And for me in Sunrise, it allowed me to make like the shit. I was heavy into like Rishesen intrigue and like believer
Boy,
schemes
yeah.
and the sort of politics of it. I found deeply interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember a lot of my favorite moments in Sunrise, thinking back to it, were describing especially like how certain changes to our characters would be reflected in the Enclave, like Maldives moving to a new sector, a new place to live because of changes, and I'll
you
just
mean evicting one of your teammates to take his house?
Yeah. Well, house is a strong word for a hot dog stand, or what was it? It was
a clown themed like shoot the clown mouth and blow up the balloon stand that you turned into a house. Remember, it was painted in clowns.
Yes, and I kicked
and Aaron's character left up, and you basically kicked in the door and instantly started painting. Yeah.
I think that really is like, I remember now months later. There's a lot of little moments like that.
So that's another soft rule that's added into Enclave and contract creation, which is the macro, which is like the market gets one thing to add before vignettes, which is here's a big thing happening in the economy that you either don't have control of at all or is a consequence of shit you did previously. And it sort of themes all the jobs that day. So like you can write contracts as reactions against that thing or attempts to exploit it or, all of those natures. And that's not like a hard rule. There's no math to it. You don't have to interpret a die a certain way. It's very much just like, here's a good thing to add. It makes a nice break between like doing your pre-game upkeep where you're trying to decide what you're spending your stuff on and getting into vignettes and actually role playing. There's a lot of little stuff like that. Sadly, not as much as I'd like, because again, I am focused on the core, do the dice work. When you make sense of your character sheet stuff. But there's some of that in the market analysis that I've included so far, and hopefully that will be an entire book.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing that could be added as a supplement or an appendix, like here's additional role-playing prompts and idea mechanics you can add if you want to really emphasize the storytelling aspect of it, rather than the it kind of makes me curious, like judging from the feedback you have from first edition, like what are the players of Red Markets, in your opinion, more likely to be like story gamers, or more of the I'm going to min-max my way to victory and treat this as a tactical problem to be solved, or a combo?
It can be both, but I do kind of want to backdoor it if they are more tactical folks. It's not. I'm not going to presume like. I will say this, the one feedback and playtesting note I'm not going to have much time for is balance. Like, it's a game about capitalism. Like, if we're doing it, like, where do I send the feedback form for capitalism about game balance?
There's the
boy howdy, do I have some fucking notes. Like, I'm not attempting to do that. I want it to be unfair at times. I think it can be unfair on the part of the takers and the players. Like I love it when players like come up with a scheme that are like, oh, we need to provide security for this dice game. So that means we are in the best position to cheat this motherfucking dice. Like that's capitalism, man. That's great. Like you did that. Like I want it to break both ways. So like game balance is not something I'm going to really hear as like a feedback for it. But that's kind of me hoping to backdoor it into the because there are tactical decisions you can make that are better and worse. You can have better or smarter ideas or worse ideas. I've built in like a lot of mechanics. Like I built the choke point mechanic into Blight now, which is, hey, they're coming for you, but you're describing the space pretty well, and you want to find something that barricades. Because there's lots of great points in like Red Markets games. I remember, I think at one point I trapped David in a like coat closet in a mega church that had vectors breaking down the door, and he's just like, well, where are the studs in the wall? I'm like, that's fucking great. Give me an exert test. And he's just like hacking through fucking drywall as there's corpses beating down the door on the other side. that's a mechanic now. If I don't have a way to think about that, I can just ask for a roll, and then my market gives me something that's like a cool little throw the vending machine in the floor to slow them down kind of thing. So yeah, there's elements like that I want to see, but I do think like the systems can be so like slot machiney. You can be way up, or then they can kill you with attrition, or then you can be really fuck up a job or like not get a negotiation, like have a real fucking short week. I'm really hoping I guess the power gamers get in there and realize like, why do I feel anxiety about my character, which is just numbers and stuff? Oh, it's because I'm slowly bleeding out of all the things I need to help them survive. Like, yeah, if I could imply it that way, rather than stating it explicitly as I did in the first edition, that would be ideal. But where does the gameplay focus on? I'm hoping the storytelling aspect. I hope everybody gets some part of that, or at least however much they're comfortable with. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think one of the great things about red markets is that the negotiation happens first, and but you give players this meta currency. And what happens all the fucking time is players are like, it's the start of the session, I got this willpower to burn and I want more money, and nobody's like, I'm not going to be the guy who's crit fails without willpower on a life or death roll. And it just like that's the most insidious thing about it. That's capitalism. You're just rolling the dice. I just need to push it just a little more. I just need to one more game of blackjack, one more pushed roll. Yeah. It's great. It's and I think this edition, especially because again, some of these changes you made to combat are going to make characters take these risks and more quickly regret them, which is again, thematic. But
and we've done some stuff to like, I know it's a game about capitalism. There's shopping, but like Daniel, which is one of Maddie's friends from Australia, made gear cards. Which is just all of these essentials for a piece of Red Market's gear on like a little card that you can snip out. And so you don't really have anything you have to write down on your character sheet. You just grab the card of the thing you need and you bubble in the upgrades you have and how many charges you used. So I'm including that in the playtest if you want to print out, however many copies of the deck and make it. And that might be a stretch goal if we do a crowdfund of some kind. But yeah, that's the goal. Like the shopping's quick, you can just grab your shit. The combat's quick, but it lets you agonize over those. Man, I wish I had that will for this zombie bite I just got, and I didn't spend it on being mean to my competition back in the market. Yeah. So hopefully people can focus more on that sort of. The whole game has always been about opportunity cost, and I really just want to strip away anything that is distracting from that in gameplay.
Yeah. So do you have a firm release date yet for the beta?
Oh God, I'm going to shoot for January 21st. We'll call it the crash sale. Pretentious times. And I'm hoping to get it done by then. By done, it is all done, but I'm proofreading it dozens of times, and I'm having to like assemble different PDFs into like single documents and arrange files and stuff. So I'm going to try and have it out by then. Knock on wood. Hopefully nothing happens. But definitely by the end of February at the absolute latest. But we're going to go for the 21st, and it should be on Heaven on Games Open Design. It should be on redmarketsrpg.com, and I'll put it up on itch for like pay what you want as well.
Yeah.
And then same day I'll knock down the core book in price big time. And if you don't have that yet, but you want to use it for like setting information, or you don't want to write your own shifts, so you just want to roll on the D100 table, all that stuff's like compatible easily with the new system. And you can look at the old stuff. The old story hasn't changed. The old meta, there's still moths. There's still the DHQS. All that stuff is still around. Nothing's invalidated in the current catalog of Red Market stuff. We're just updating all the mechanics.
Yeah. Yeah, and lots of great story lore. That's what you need is a YouTube explainer lore video channel, and
God,
you could just have
economic dystopia.
So we'll of course have links in our show notes here. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see how the community reacts to it, see what kind of campaigns pop up, what kind of feedback you get. And
do APs, do whatever you need to do. Like, please just play it. Please, however you can, play it, and say my name if you can.
Yeah.
My way, but
I'll run 2 games of it for the RPPR Patreon in February for patrons. So if you want to try it out, I could run it for you, and because I did play through quite a bit of it, so I get to try it out as a GM this time. So, and with the beta rules available for free, I can just here they are. Here are the pre-gens. Let's go. So. That'll be fun. Cool. Well, again, we'll have the links, and at a couple, I'm going to be doing some playtests first of Labyrinth Signal, before I post anything. So we'll do a future episode.
Yeah, get me in on that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I liked it when I had that filthy, unfathomably long 4-word title.
Yeah,
pretty good.
Labyrinths of Lost Futures. Yes.
Yeah, before it was. Was weighed down and my spine was cracked under the weight of the moniker.
Just one too many words. Yeah. And I'm very excited about that because that'll be the RPG I use for the modern Mega Dungeon. Because I want to have my own bespoke system, but I'm thinking about it. I kind of do want, if it works out well, the system would actually be, I could just make a coin tracked island style RPG with that system as well. So I have lots of, I'm more of a setting guy than a rules guy, but I need to have my own rules to do my own stuff because I don't want to do supplements for someone else's game.
Let me tell you, it's super easy and it doesn't require any work at all. And it definitely doesn't haunt you years after the fact in an endless return. So
okay. Yeah.
Highly recommend it. It's the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Get rich fast. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. So thank you so much, Caleb, for being out here. We'll have links in the show notes. And yeah, the 21st, hopefully, knock on wood. But be seeing you out in the loss.
Please play the game.
Please play the game.
Please.
Yeah.
Please play the game.
Please play the game. And we'll be running it. I'll be running it for the RPPR Patreon. So, yeah. We'll talk to you later. Bye.